Hello, everyone. I'm back again. Where has the last month gone? This is episode 2 of Real PR with me, Fiona Scott. I'm joined in the background by the wonderful Chris, who's producing me and this show. So, hi, Chris, if you can hear me. And today we've got something exciting for you. Some of you will know who follow me that I went to Las Vegas last year for a tech conference, and there I met this wonderful man called John Boitnott, and we got on like a house on fire. I don't know if he can remember the first time he saw me, but I can remember the first time I saw him. But we'll have that discussion in a minute. And I've asked him to join us and tell us a bit about his life as a journalist in San Francisco, what he thinks of PR, and just a general chit chat, because it's always good, isn't it, to hear interesting people's stories. But I have to warn you folks, I developed a horrible cold. So I've got a drink in hand and I have to show you my merch. There it is. Sorry, it has to be done. But anyway, let's crack on with today's show. So in a moment, we're going to welcome the wonderful John Boitnott from San Francisco.
Hi,
John.
I've been talking a bunch over here, and I'm not sure if you had heard it. Maybe you just turned on my mic, so it's not. It wasn't annoying. Anyway, hi. How are you?
I'm really good. It's so lovely to see you. Now, tell everybody, I'm in Swindon in the UK, the southwest of the UK. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's dull. It's rainy. Tell us what it's like where you are.
The sun is just coming up over here, kind of in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. I'm looking out my window right now. That's why I'm staring off into that direction. And actually, it's like at that really nice stage of the morning. I don't know if you have this in England, because I know it's always raining and always dreary. But I'm kidding. But no, we're having that stage in the morning where it's kind of like there's like a faint amber glow as the morning mists get shaken off by the dawning of the brand new day. It's because it's only, it's barely wake up time over here in California. So yeah, it's beautiful out there. I can tell it's gonna be a nice day, although we've had a lot of rain lately. But we're sort of in that middle of the winter stage where the weather isn't bad, but the weather's kind of nice, but it's cold.
Yeah. So, what do you call cold though, John? Because over here -6 is really cold. What's cold for you?
So in California, what we call cold is really warm and beautiful to everyone else. This is why so many people have historically wanted to move to the state and be in the state, and why it has 40 million people in it currently. And even though and the population is more or less stable, slightly growing, even though people are like flying off to other states all over the United States and turning it into more of a Californiaizing. The Red Hot Chili Peppers called it Californication.
Yeah.
So we're spreading our Californianess to many other areas of to as far away as Georgia and Florida, but mostly to Idaho, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and Arizona. I'm just saying American states.
Same places, aren't you?
Yeah. But the truth is those are all the states that are around California that we spread our Californianess to, which is a lot. I mean, and you take all those states, and there's still not as many people in all of those states as there are in California. The only states that have as much as California are like New York and Texas and perhaps Florida. Anyway. So yeah, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Although we're in the middle of winter, so yeah.
Yeah, I just know loads of my listeners and watchers will be thinking, oh, how I wish to be in John's state right now, especially as I'm looking out the window and it's starting to rain yet again. But John, can you remember when we were in Vegas, when you first saw me and you thought, I'll talk to her?
Yeah, we were at that party. We were at that party with the free food, and which is really the only thing that makes it a party for me. But the thing about that party is that it was in one of the best clubs in Vegas, the one at the Caesars Palace that's on like the roof of the building that's right in front of the strip with the cars going by. I know that doesn't sound particularly great, but the Caesars Palace is located at the very center of the strip, because the strip goes for like 2, 3, 4 miles. I'm not sure how many miles, but it just goes. And
Mhm.
there's these massive hotels with glitzy lights everywhere and advertisements for Celine Dion, or now it's Adele, right? Because Celine
Yeah.
isn't singing anymore in Vegas, but now it's Adele who's doing that at the Caesars. And so, yeah, we're in the club right in the middle of the heart of all that. And so I see you sitting there, and I'm like, I'll go talk to her. I didn't really think about it too much. And then I talked to you, and like an hour later, we were still talking. So
Yeah.
with free food and free drinks and good looking people all around, and then a bunch of software journalism nerds in the middle of it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember because I'd never been to Vegas before. So I was still sort of rabbit in the headlights, looking around, couldn't believe I'd got a gig where I was out looking at the strip. It probably cost somebody else a lot of money to be there. And we were given free food and free drink, weren't
Yeah.
we?
I
Um,
loved it. Yeah, I loved it. It was a good, all the people who worked for the club at the Caesars Palace are just like the best looking people. Like, I don't know where they only hire you if you're a pop star looking type person.
but John, we fit right in.
Oh yeah. No, I have no doubt. It was they didn't look at me like I was a grandpa or their uncle.
No, no, we were there in our jeans.
Yeah.
But John, just share with everyone. I mean, tell us a bit like the type of stuff you write about and that you do at home that might be different to what I do here in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, I write primarily about what I'm most well known for is writing for Entrepreneur Magazine, entrepreneur.com, which is a big site, and it's responsible for half of anybody who's interested in talking to me about anything. But mainly what I write for Entrepreneur is stories about how to run, well, not even stories so much as advice and tips for how to run your business better. And that can be a lot of times it sort of bleeds into marketing and how to do content marketing better, or do your search engine optimization, SEO better, that kind of stuff. So it's really advice for budding entrepreneurs or young professionals or people who work at companies for how to do their job better, how to run their business better, basically, or how to get the word out about their company better. But also a lot of stories about leadership. I mean, the people at Entrepreneur want me to write about stuff that they know are going to be hot topics, and they do this with a lot of their writers. So they have me write stories about like Quitter's Day, which is like a story halfway through about a theoretical day halfway through January, or like on the second Friday or Saturday or Sunday, I forget now, of January, where people have quit their New Year's resolution. In America, I'm sure it's somewhat similar in England. In America, we have many people have New Year's resolutions. They don't even last several days because it's incredibly hard to form new habits. And so Quitter's Day is kind of like a deadline by which most people, like the vast majority of people, have stopped even trying to do their New Year's resolution at that point. So whether it's get in shape, whether it's wake up earlier, those types of things. And so that's a story that I wrote about that for Entrepreneur, and how to sort of get past that Quitter's Day. And so they have me write stories about that. So lifestyle stories, even, that are sort of related to business and startups and entrepreneurship. So yeah, those are the things I write.
We have those kind of, suppose we call them awareness days and awareness weeks and awareness months, and I use them a lot in the UK. There are tons. There's an awareness day for almost everything, isn't there, John? Quitters in the UK, yeah, it means people giving up. We tend to focus that on Blue Monday. There's something called Blue Monday, which I think will be similar, and they also relate it a lot to mental health, feeling down, flat time of year. Is that familiar?
Yeah, no, totally. And I mean, Lord knows that many people in America are having issues around that. It's not something I write about quite as much when it comes to mental health, although I have written stories about mental health. I think that's, highly important, and something that many people are interested in hearing about, especially as it relates to the entrepreneurial journey, or not even so much the entrepreneurial journey, but the journey of working for entrepreneurs. Because I mean, for me, working for startups in the past here in the San Francisco Bay Area, where Silicon Valley is, I've had different entrepreneurs who I've worked for who to them, it was their end all be all mission and the thing that they loved in their life so much. They were so proud of their baby. They're entrepreneurs in there. They've got like 11 employees now, and they are taking money from venture capitalists. And so me being an employee of theirs, it was sort of assumed that I would have the same appreciation and love for their baby as they do. That can be kind of a depressing thing behind the scenes when you're working your butt off for people who've never had any, who don't know how, who may have worked at a company, but certainly don't have any HR training. And it's a startup. So there's only 11 employees. So there's nobody who's like helping with there might be one ops person, an operations person, but there's nobody who's really treating the employees. There's not knowledge on how to treat employees well yet. So that can be depressing and difficult, and you don't feel like you're having a great time working for a place like that. But the person can't seem to understand why anyone would not love their company the way that they do, because it's their baby. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So that's one type of sort of mental health issue that can come along.
John, how did you get into writing about this stuff? Take us right back. Did you always want to be a journalist, or how did you fall into it, if you like?
I fell into it. I had wanted to be a journalist a long time. That's a good question. I don't get asked that every day, which is great. I was a journalist in the 90s as a kid coming out of college. And then I was a journalist. I continued doing that in Santa Barbara. So also, maybe your viewers are looking at me like, oh, this guy, all he's done is lived on the California coast in these beautiful places. But yeah, so, some people have that lot in life, I guess. But anyway, yeah, I worked at a TV station in Santa Barbara. I was there for quite a while until 2005. Moved up to the Bay Area, where I was actually from in the first place. Grew up in San Francisco, and ended up continuing to write for TV stations. So I worked at a TV station in Santa Barbara for like 10 years, and then moved up to the Bay Area, continued to write at TV stations here, and was just always interested in the entrepreneurial journey, how these entrepreneurs were doing what they were doing, how they were, people like Elon Musk working at PayPal, that era, sort of like how these people had come up with these ideas, and why these companies had caught the imagination and were, millions of people, and were being used by millions of people, these services that they were creating. And so writing about that, noticing that sometimes particular stories about entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurs of Silicon Valley, how those stories would get more page views than other people, would cause me to want to write more about those types of subjects. So yeah, that's kind of where it started. And then I ended up sort of leaving TV and getting working more about in the social media realm for a publishing company, Village Voice, and a few other places. And just sort of continued to write about those subjects off and on. And that sort of continued. Yeah, I've gone where the opportunities are a lot of times. I don't know. I think as I've worked in journalism, it's not been about writing about any particular subject so much. It's been more about doing in my life what feels like is most fun, and is allowing me to live more of the life of my dreams, kind of. I do want to make money so that I can live a happy, partly so that I can live a happier life. But it's not about, it's more about the things that will come out, the happiness of living the life of my dreams, whatever that may be. It's sort of doing what I want to do and being able to fund that, and not even really being that particular about what I do in order to fund that. But a lot of it has been about writing, and which doesn't pay all that great. So you have to sometimes do other things to supplement what you're doing.
Because I was going to ask you that, because in the UK, traditional journalism, it's very hard to make a living as a freelancer. What's it like for you over there?
Oh yeah, pretty difficult. It's a lot of it is PR for yourself. It's like finding people who you can, just being able to find people who have the type of work that you are currently doing is not all that easy sometimes. I mean, also there's a really large amount of spam out there. People who may be from different countries and may not really even be working in the realm of trying to help people find jobs, but more so the realm of trying to get people's personal information so that they can sell that information. Or I'm not sure why, or have them, I'm not sure. One of the big spam things is to try and get people off of is to hire people with a job that they've already approved you to have, and we're so excited to have you already, and they don't even know you yet, and they just want to get you onto WhatsApp so that they can get your personal information, so they can somehow, take money out of your bank account. I don't know, this type of thing is happening quite a lot. Maybe it's not something people know about, but there's a lot of spam out there.
A lot of spam and scam. Chris, my producer, has a question for you, John. So I'm going to show it on the screen.
Hi, Chris.
How do you manage everyone thinking that a story is newsworthy over there, or is that not an issue in the USA?
It's a giant issue. Yeah, no, I mean, it's I think that so I'm constantly bombarded. I think I might have said that already, but on everything from LinkedIn chat to emails to, and that's, we're talking dozens a day. It's there are people who are trying to get you to cover them live, and there are people who are trying to get you to cover them sort of in a more remote way, just through emails. And you probably have experienced this too. Now, I think it's just this morning, just before I started the show, I looked at a LinkedIn chat from somebody who was they've got it down to just a basic sending you a chat, giving you the entire spiel about their company, and wanting you to consider them for a story. And that's fine, but because there are so many of these things, you have to just ignore them. That's kind of what happens. And the vast majority, look, I'm not even able to write about a company unless they're a household name already. That's kind of where it's at with Entrepreneur, and they're able to do that because they're a bigger organization with a big following, so they're able to have those quote unquote standards. But so basically, what I have to do is I have to just let them know that you're a non-household name entrepreneur, and I'm not able to write about you. But don't you understand that these companies are in the, they're coming up with medical products in the medical field that are going to be saving many lives. But the problem for them is nobody cares. Nobody knows about them. Well, you'd be the one who would be able to tell everyone about them. I'm like, oh boy, that sounds so exciting. It's, what are you going to do? Yeah, it's just something, it's part of the landscape. It's something you just have to face as a journalist. You're going to get people who might think that they don't even have the context to know whether or not their company is worth being written about. It's you do.
Well, my favorite one was someone who wanted me to write a story about the fact that they changed their logo and it changed from one shade of green to another shade of green, which was
That reminds me of one I got the other day where it was just a big, long, enthusiastic 2 or 3 paragraphs about how they hired a new VP of fill in the blank. I don't even, and it was just like, what, delete. What can you even do? It's I would say 95 to 98% of the things, the pitches that I get, I have to just delete or leave there because I feel bad about deleting them. I feel like I'm deleting them in real life, and it feels like I'm being a bad person. But no, it is what it is. God, what a frustrating thing. It's kind of a broken system. It leads you to understand why there are people who seek to be paid for, there are some services out there where they will charge you a certain amount of hundreds of dollars, in my case, for a story on site X, and they'll give you a list of like 100 sites. And you pick out the site that you want, we'll get you on that because we've built up these relationships with journalists over this, that type of PR,
Well, I've had a great one today from a PR point of view. I've got a couple of questions for you in a minute, John, but I've got a great one today, which you'll love. So magazine approaches client of mine. They want to write about them. So we do that. We fill out all their questions. They send us an online link and they say, but what we really want you to do, this was not mentioned before, is to buy 20 copies of our magazine at £19 each, which is £380. I don't know what that'd be, $450 or something. And I just went back and said, that's really sneaky.
Yeah.
That is sneaky. So it can happen the other way around. And that led to a whole debate about this woman going, well, how do you think I'm going to make money? And I said, by being ethical. But, because it can work both ways. Someone just deciding they're going to set up a magazine, John, and making it up as they go.
That's what that sounds like. Yeah, I mean, I think that the truth is that for all these things, there's no shortcut. The only way out of it is to kind of do what you're doing, which is to get to know people and perform a service for people that's valuable over a long period of time, that actually delivers measurable results, and to do that consistently and competently, and people will see that, and then you will, in your wake, you will leave people who will want to work with you again. Not always easy, because it's such a what have you done for me lately type world. I mean, I think one of the things about PR that I have always found so difficult is the hamster wheel nature of it, where you could have had a wonderful month where you delivered some great coverage for a client and they are so happy about it, and then there's sort of a little bit of a glow for a week or two, and then you have to deliver it again the next month, or the month after that. And so that keeps repeating. And I think that what cutting the wheat from the chaff in terms of the people who can do these things, if you're able to sort of continue to replicate that over a long period of time, then you're somebody who can sort of survive in the PR world generally. And if you're not able to replicate that, if you have a difficult time with coming up with coverage consistently, then and sometimes it's the clients, it's an issue about the client, not even you, but still, if you're not able to do that, then maybe you're not cut out for PR as much. But yeah, PR is difficult that way. It's just sort of is a grind. You have to keep coming at it.
I always think of it as lots of stories, just like a journalist would. The only difference for me is who pays the bill. And I always say to a business owner, put yourself in the shoes of someone like John or a news editor. They aren't going to write about the same thing over and over again. And if you want coverage in that thing over and over again, buy space. Otherwise, accept that John might write about you, if you fit, once a year.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I think that when it comes to getting coverage, I mean, it's what was I going to say? This happens a lot in the morning. I don't drink coffee, so it's the mind's not quite as sharp.
I forgot that. Yeah. You're on a half drive. I've got a question for you anyway, John. This is from my friend Andrew. Thanks for listening in, Andrew. There you are. Can you see it? How do you deal with stories or topics that you may decide to cover if you don't necessarily agree with the views being made? How do you manage the personal emotion around this?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a little bit, that's a great question. I mean, for me, fortunately, I don't have to write about politics. I don't have to write about, I can have sort of a much more broad way of approaching a lot of the tone of these stories. I mean, for me, it really comes down to, is the story going to get, so number one, it's about business, right? It's about, sort of innovation in business a lot of times. And there isn't that much that's political about that. So it doesn't touch upon that side of things too much. So what you end up doing is you write about whether or not the idea is creating, really ultimately, when it comes to PR in the tech world, it's often about, is this company, is this new idea, is this entrepreneur, are they related to something that's really growing fast, right? And what are they doing to get things growing fast? So the point of my column is stories about companies and about trends and tips and tricks to help people get their company growing faster, doing better, having a better environment at the company, a better culture, selling more, etc. And so that ends up being more black and white and less kind of emotional in general. I think when it comes to creating an environment or a culture at a company that's happier, it's there are ways to do that, and sometimes that is can delve into the controversial in terms of the way that you run a company. I mean, some people don't like the fact that they would have to have people that they would have to worry about the happiness of their employees. Some people don't like that, and so sometimes you get a little bit of anger at more traditional people who don't like the idea of having to care about the feelings of the people that they work with. And so that's just sort of like, that's on them for being sort of emotionally stunted. But yeah, you just get those people in life. But yeah.
Have you ever, John, at the top of your head, have you ever had to write a story about something that you had a personal aversion to, or write a story about something you're really passionate about that might not be around business?
There have been stories about yes, there have been stories about say Elon Musk, who took over Twitter, and in order to get his viewpoint out there more. Now, don't get me wrong, when it comes to Elon Musk, I'm a fan of some of what he has done and is doing when it comes to wanting to go to Mars, when it comes to wanting to create more of a market for electric cars, et cetera, et cetera. But the way that he runs a business, the way that he interacts with his employees, the way he treats people is controversial, right? And so having, and some of the things he says in his tweets, et cetera, have been controversial and are. So having to write about his success. No, look, there was a period of time where I wrote multiple Elon Musk sort of stories a year, and they were the sort of link bait type stories where, because, you know, when you have, as a freelancer working for, say, Inc. magazine or Entrepreneur magazine, and they pay you very little, but they'll pay you more if it gets a lot of page views, there's been the tendency to want to write stories that can get you a lot of page views. And those Elon Musk stories, those types of things, you know, these 7 things Elon Musk does before 10 a.m. that can, you know, help you with your company, that type of link bait is something that I'll write because it can, you know, get me paid more. And there has been sort of a, you know, I'm really tired of this guy, but I want to try and do an Elon Musk story because I know it's just because his name is in the title, it's going to get 5 to 10,000 more page views than a story that's just about how to do your content marketing better. You know, when you attach a celebrity to it, and that can be a controversial celebrity that has, you know, huge following, you know, that there's a bunch of things going on there. But yeah, so the bottom line is, yes, I have written stories about sort of subject matter that's been controversial that maybe I have an aversion to. Yeah.
Yeah. And how important is that? Because I think a lot of people don't understand that freelance journalists do sometimes have to make decisions about whether this will get more clicks online than that story. That's something that's just people are starting to realize that in the UK. But from what you're saying, that's been around for ages for you.
It really has. We're in 2024 now. It's amazing how fast it's going by. And the first time when I realized that this was something that I could leverage in order to help my career was 2007. I started writing for the NBC station in San Francisco, in San Jose, California, which is actually like the 10th largest city in the United States. And the vast majority of people probably haven't even heard of, you know, over in UK, have hardly heard of San Jose, but it's a city that's an hour south of San Francisco, and it's larger than San Francisco. Anyway, that's where the NBC station was. And I started writing there for their website. And it was very quick. It was very soon after starting to write for their website. I wrote for their newscasts, which went live in the evening and everything, like the traditional American newscasts, local American newscasts. And that's great. And I had done that since like 1995. But so I started writing for their website. And it was very quick when I learned that what they cared about more than anything else was page views. And it very quickly caught me onto the idea that what I want to do is write stories on the website and then share those stories with big aggregator sites like the Drudge Report or the Huffington Post, or social media sites like Dig at the time, which most people don't remember, but Reddit existed then and was smaller then, still had a big following. Share the story on Reddit, share the story on StumbleUpon. The StumbleUpon is the name of the site, and a bunch of other sites. So that way I was able to get 5, 10, 15,000 page views for any story that I wrote that was interesting for a certain group of a demographic, basically. And so I was able to get paid more. I was able to get better jobs where I was leveraging this skill of news aggregation, and moved on from NBC and worked for you know, a bunch of different publications like VentureBeat, the website, the news service, the publication that's about startups. One of them, like TechCrunch, that whole TechCrunch, Read Write Web was one of them at the time. I worked for most of them at one point or another, helping them with stories and getting more page views. But anyway, yeah, so that's something I realized back then, that it was really about just getting more page views so that more ads could be loaded, etc., for these companies. And then they needed that. They needed the hamster wheel of them needing that every month was you really have to just sort of come to terms with the fact that whatever service that you provide, you're going to have to keep on providing it, and that's business.
I've got another question for you, John.
Yeah.
This comes from my stepdaughter Lauren, who's just joined me in the business. What advice would you give to aspiring journalists entering the field today? Come on then, John.
Oh man, I would say, in addition to journalism, be aware that you're going to have to highlight your own brand. So learn how to sort of be a digital editor on YouTube and create your own channel for years and years and years. Do that so that it's a skill that you have going forward, because there will come a day, if you are going into journalism, you clearly have some sort of like lovely aspirations in the realm of helping people learn information about the world that is going to help them in their lives, perhaps. And that's a great thing about journalism. But as a journalist, know that you will lose your job someday. And you might lose it multiple times, and you're going to work at multiple places. Long gone are the days when you would work someplace for 30 years. And that's just not in the cards for you if you get into journalism. And know that you are going to be attracted to by the golden, beautiful vision of any other company that's sort of vaguely PR or journalism related, where you would have a job that is a more stable job. You're going to start to fetishize stability in your life. You're like, ooh, but that job has a 401k. And ooh, that job has, it doesn't have, you're not beholden to the whims of the news cycle every single day with that job. So you'll start to, unless you are just a stalwart soul who is not tempted by such things, because your idealism into the virtues of journalism is so very paramount or something. Look, you're setting yourself up for being very tempted by, look, it's not, all I'm saying is it's not easy to be a journalist for a very long period of time. You're going to be tempted by easier paths.
Yeah, I would agree with that though, John. And I just say to my buddies that are still journalists or coming out or in that situation is, personal brand, and don't put all your eggs in one basket. Try different things.
I have a friend who's a sports talk radio person in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he has been working at radio stations for many years. But he, in the past couple of years, has sort of fallen away. He got fired for the umpteenth time from a radio station, and so he ended up getting a job, or not getting a job. He ended up starting his own YouTube channel, and now he has like 40,000 people following him there, because he does have a long reputation of having been a good sports journalist. And so he's got all these people willing to follow him onto YouTube, because he also speaks well. He was on radio that's all you have is your ability to speak when it comes to radio, because they're not looking at your face. So he's got all these people who know who he is, and he has this reputation, and they've followed him onto YouTube, and he's monetizing that. It doesn't make a ton of money, but he's growing and growing and growing. And as time goes by, he should be able to make a nice little living doing a thing by himself, well, with a couple people who are helping him. And he should be able to make a living that way and not be beholden to, folks telling him, don't talk about this subject. Don't talk about this baseball team, because if you talk negatively about them, then we lose our sponsorship, and they're keeping the radio station afloat. So don't talk bad about them. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore. What he does have to worry about, though, is the constant work of it, though. He has to keep going. He has to talk about each major sports team and the main new things that they just did today to keep the people coming back to his column, to keep the revenue coming in. And that's so that it is a bit of a slave driver. You've become your own slave driver that way. And there's no shortcut in these things. It's a bunch of hard work. You have to really love what you're doing.
It's very different. I mean, I'm older than you, John, but when I first started in journalism, it was newspapers, radio, or TV. You chose that. But now we do have other tools at our disposal, like this, YouTube. You can create your own radio show and a podcast, create your own TV show, but you have to feed it. It's a hungry animal, and you have to put in the donkey work to start to make any revenue. And you're quite right. There's no shortcuts. Got another question for you here, John. It's Chris again.
I love all these questions.
I know. With the size of each of the,
following. I love this.
I know. With the size of each of the states, let alone in the whole of the USA, does that change the scope of what constitutes a national story? Must be so different to little old England.
Yeah, I always in my mind, I always think about the story of Led Zeppelin, which is the British rock, which is a British rock group. But the truth is, they're four of them. They're all from two of them.
I know.
Yeah, two of them are from around London. Two are from around the Midlands, I guess, right? So, but when it comes to Led Zeppelin, they didn't really hit it big till they hit it big in America. In a couple different places in America where they hit it big in like late 68, early 69 kind of a thing. And it was just this massive, upswell of appreciation that was just, it was exponentially larger than because, England is, has a big population, but it's probably, just could be considered like one region if it was in the US, obviously. Yeah. And so anyway, when it comes to a national story, I think that what the United States is learning is that each portion of the country is dealing with certain issues, and those same issues are different for different people in each of the different regions. So when it comes to, say, homelessness, people might look at that issue in a certain way in California, and then when it comes to Idaho, there will be a far different sort of feeling about that, or a different way of viewing what caused that. So there are different ways of looking at things in different regions in the U.S. and it varies. The way you cover that is to just ultimately, when it comes to covering that, it's just the facts, ma'am. Is the way I've always felt you got to approach it. If there are things that are occurring, you report on the things that are occurring and you say what those things are. And then you can, to some extent, show the different views of different people about those things. And maybe that might be controversial to others, but there's always going to be something, in this world where you have, people on Twitter and people on Threads and people on Snapchat and people on TikTok. You have all these different types of people who generally feel different ways about different things. And they're all interacting with each other. There's no way out of having some level of controversy. You just have to kind of embrace that and not stoke the flames or the fire of it too much, unless you're really trying to just get a bunch of page views for yourself. So,
John, I'm going to put you on the spot here. If I throw some words at you that we in the UK are saying about the USA, at the moment, you don't have to answer. I'm just going to throw a word at you and you can say whatever you like. Okay, guess what my first word's going to be?
Egotistical? No.
No.
About the US?
Trump.
What is it? Oh, Trump. I mean, Trump has been able to do well because he's so interesting, even to the people who hate him. The people who hate him click on the stories about him, right? And so I think that, once Trump has finally, shuffled off the scene, which who knows when that would ever be, it's going to make things far less interesting. And there's nobody out there who can really pull off what he's doing. He's a unicorn. He's a one of a kind guy. No Republican or Democrat really has his personality that sort of infectiously brings everyone to check out what he has to say. I mean, there's nothing else like him. And from that perspective, from the perspective of the news executive who desperately needs the page views, him leaving is going to be a very difficult thing to have to endure. So yeah, it's and it's interesting to see all the, like you had your Boris Johnson guy who is like a pale imitation of Trump, but maybe, but that's fine. And then Brazil has their Trump guy. And then in order to get people to understand what type of leader a person is, the big doofus blowhard is the Trump guy. And like, there's one in Mexico and there's one in Brazil and there's one in England. And Czechoslovakia has a Trump guy. You have to use like that as a way to categorize that. Yeah. Anyway, so it's there you go. It is what it is. It's the times we live in, and all we can do.
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to move on. I got another one for you, which is making big news a lot in the UK. Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift. I mean, yeah, she's a special kind of what would have happened if Madonna and Whitney Houston were the same person in 1994. For those kids nowadays are like, who? Madonna's that old woman. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, she's 65 now. Time does pass, but yeah, like Taylor Swift is very special. She's not the first pop star to date a football player. She's not the first pop star to date a sports person. That kind of happened with Dave Beckham and what's her name from the Spice Girls all those years ago, and then happened before that with other people in the U.S. And so anyway, but she's Taylor Swift. She's sort of captures the type of young lady who's 35, by the way. I had to check with Siri the other day. I asked Siri, hey, how old is Taylor Swift? 35. So she's fully a millennial. But yeah, she's a sort of captures the popular like zeitgeist of conception of what you would want to be like if you're a young lady. And she's fantastic. She has good political views. She's dating a big, handsome, rugged football star. She's in Tokyo doing a concert right now. She's a billionaire. She's like who you want to be in life. She's a perfect example of a human.
I'm gonna think of another one now, and things that come up. Be interesting to see. Okay, who else am I going to ask you about? Okay, Joe Biden.
The thing about her.
I was going to ask you about Joe Biden, because there was a particular story about him in the UK yesterday, which kind of suggested he was too old, and it kind of suggested memory problems. Did that hit in America as well?
I mean, that we've been obsessed with that story for a while now. There has to be sort of a main theme about somebody that we get obsessed about. But Biden is an older man. He's 81, which is like something like that. He's like 1 year older than Trump. Trump's an old man too. If you take a look at a picture of Trump now compared to 2016, he's lost weight and he looks older. If you take a look at a picture of Biden in those same years, he looks sort of older and more sort of. One of my friends who voted for Biden said, yeah, the poor old guy, he looks like he's half in the grave. But the thing is to me, it's not really about Biden. It's about the people that he puts around him. It's which apparatus of people who are pulling all the levers that they put around them. It's not so much about, it's the administration, right? It's not so much about the guy at the center of it. I think he certainly informs and makes a ton of these decisions, but also he's pretty well known for being less dictatorial and more, sort of delegating, as opposed to Trump, who's a little bit more dictatorial and everything has to run through him. And Biden's a little bit less so. So I like the way he kind of runs things. I think by and large, the Biden administration has been competent. So there, in my mind, there's not really an issue about whether or not he's walking around not knowing what direction he's going. Woo! Like that's a thing. That's not really an issue to me because the people he's got around him are running the thing pretty effectively. Inflation down, employment up, gas prices low. But if you take a look at the content world with content marketing and PR, we're all losing our jobs, and we're lucky to be holding on to anybody who would want to give us a paycheck. But so we're kind of the rest of the economy might be doing pretty well, but in PR land, things are hand to mouth to some extent for decades now. Anyway, it's not like we're not used to that. So
that's not in my little world of PR, John. Not in my little world of PR.
No, I think you're a little bit different. I think, and that goes back to Taylor Swift too. I think what people like about Taylor Swift is she is the type of young lady who you would just want to hang out with. Reminds me of you. You got the good vibes in the background. Somebody like that, and that's what I realized when I first started, hanging out with you during that trip. I was like, oh, somebody nice. Like you're working there at a table by yourself, and there's other people at other tables. Like I'd go straight. I'd make a beeline for you because immediately I feel like I have a friend I can talk to who has like a good, sweet attitude, who is easy to talk to and supportive. Nice. And I think that that's what people look at in Taylor Swift, and they see the same type of thing. She's obviously a nice person. She's also kind of cool, and you want to like be around her to bask in the glow of her happiness.
Anyway. Yeah, I'd take some Taylor Swift fairy dust any day.
Oh, so, yeah.
So John, tell me Are you okay for people who are watching this today or on catch up later in their own time for them to follow you anywhere? How can they find you?
Yeah. In my mind, it's like, okay, yeah, Twitter. I'm Jay Boitnott on Twitter, X, whatever, JBoitnott. And then it's the same thing on Threads. So if you're on Threads, do that. And you can just email me. That's really the only way. Follow me on Substack. If you would follow my Substack, that's the thing, because Substack is actually a way that if you like what I do, you might actually give me a little bit of money. And then if enough people give me a little bit of money, then I might have enough money to go out to dinner once every few months. And that's great. And that's fine. So yeah, Substack would be great. Just look up my name on and Substack on Google, or it's actually johnboitnott.substack.com.
Brilliant.
I do a story there once every week, and I do stories on nonprofits. That's where I actually do get to do stories about companies that are non-household name, but oftentimes it ends up being nonprofits because they're doing something good in the world, or particularly innovative. But anyway, yes, that's probably the best way.
And I think what I would advise people watching this or listening and afterwards, if you're interested in following someone like John, follow John, find out what he's talking about, so you don't pitch something at him that is completely off subject for him. Because all journalists have things they want to write about or things they have to write about because of who's paying the bills, just like any other freelancer or any other self-employed person. Now, John, you can't go anywhere, even though I'm going to finish now, because we got to stay on the system for Chris to do some jiggery pokery so we don't lose it all. Okay, so
jiggery pokery sounds like
jiggery pokery. Do you like that?
Yeah, no, I think you guys have a way of saying many things that's just really gets at the heart of what's really happening a little bit better than the way Americans use their English. But yeah, no, jiggery pokery sounds like something I would definitely like to be doing on a Friday, Saturday night with someone.
Brilliant.
Anyway.
Yeah, all right, moving swiftly on. Well, everyone, I hope you really, really enjoyed that. It's been joyous for me to talk to John again. John, I'm going to invite you back on. Might be next year, but I'm going to invite you back on and see how things are. Might be after the election.
Yes.
We've got an election here too. We got an election here too. And thanks everyone for listening. Please comment, please share if you see the links after this. And join me next month with another wonderful guest. See you soon.